Disclaimer: it's inspired by reality, shaped by imagination.
What happens when a royal who spent years fighting for control of his own story steps onto a late-night stage only to have that story questioned in front of millions? On a night that was supposed to be a thoughtful conversation about creativity, technology, and the future of entertainment, Prince Harry found himself locked in a sharp, fast-escalating confrontation with Bill Maher. The topic was already explosive. Should AI-generated music and movies be banned to protect real artists? But no one expected things to spiral the way they did. One sarcastic jab, one push too far, and the room turned electric. In less than 2 minutes, what started as a debate became a direct challenge to Harry's integrity, his values, and everything he believes artists stand for. Viewers in the studio sat frozen as Harry's tone hardened, Bill doubled down, and the tension rose so high that producers started signaling wildly from behind the cameras. 39 seconds later, Prince Harry stood up, removed his mic, and walked straight off the stage, leaving Bill Maher stunned, the audience buzzing, and social media seconds away from erupting. This is the story behind that walk-off, the moment a heated late-night conversation became the most viral clash Prince Harry has had since stepping back from royal life.
The energy inside the Real Time with Bill Maher studio was brighter than usual. The band wrapped up their opening riff, the audience settled, and the cameras glided into position. Bill Maher leaned forward at his desk with that familiar mix of curiosity and mischief. Across from him sat Prince Harry, relaxed at first, legs crossed, hands loosely clasped. He gave the crowd a warm smile, the kind that usually softens any room. "Good to have you back, man. You're always a fun guest. Little unpredictable, but fun." Harry chuckled lightly. "I'll take that as a compliment." The audience laughed along. Everything felt easy. Bill opened with small talk, questions about Harry's charity work, his recent documentary, his new role in digital literacy programs. Harry answered with confidence. He leaned forward when he spoke about mental health, his voice steady and warm. A few people in the audience nodded. It felt almost peaceful. But then Bill shifted. "All right," he said, lifting a stack of cards he never actually needed. "Let's get into something real. You've been pretty outspoken lately about protecting artists, so let's talk about it. AI-generated music and movies. Harmless evolution or the apocalypse?" Harry smiled politely. "Depends who you ask." Bill pressed. "Well, I'm asking you." Harry straightened a little. "Look, I think when we talk about art, we're talking about human experience, human struggle, human connection. AI can mimic, but it can't feel. And when you replace human emotion with algorithms, you're erasing the point of art." The audience murmured in agreement. Bill tilted his head. "That sounds nice, poetically wholesome. But isn't banning AI-generated media basically saying, 'Stop the future because it makes me uncomfortable'?" Harry didn't flinch, but his posture shifted. Shoulders squared, eyes sharper. "It's not about discomfort. It's about fairness. If a machine can generate a song that sounds like a struggling musician, but that musician gets none of the credit, none of the income, that's exploitation." Some people clapped. It wasn't thunderous, but it was supportive. Harry nodded gratefully toward the section that applauded. Bill shrugged. "But technology always disrupts. We didn't ban cars because they made horses obsolete." Harry gave a small laugh. "Bill, replacing a horse isn't the same as replacing a storyteller." That got a louder reaction. Bill grinned, sensing the spark. "Good line. But let me push you here. A lot of people think AI is actually leveling the playing field, taking power away from elites, labels, studios, the gatekeepers." This time Harry didn't smile at all. "Bill, AI isn't empowering the little guy. It's empowering the corporations who own the algorithms." That line landed hard. The room grew still. Even the camera operators tensed a little, sensing the temperature rising on set. Bill nodded slowly, almost theatrically. "Well, looks like things are heating up." Harry didn't respond. He just looked at him. Calm face, tense eyes, waiting. And the sparks on stage were only beginning.
Bill Maher leaned forward in his chair, sensing the tension in the air was finally ripe enough to poke. The audience sat a little straighter, waiting to see where this would go. A few whispered, a few smirked. Everyone could feel the temperature rising. "So let me get this straight," Bill said, waving a hand. "You think AI is basically a supervillain waiting to kill creativity?" Harry gave a small shake of his head. "I'm saying it's already doing damage on a scale people aren't ready to admit." Bill grinned. "But that's what every generation says. Television would destroy books. Computers would destroy musicians. Synthesizers would put bands out of business. We've had this conversation for 80 years. Harry didn't blink. "And every time, humans still created the art. That's the difference you keep skipping. AI doesn't create. It copies. It repackages. It steals." That word hit the room hard. Bill's brow rose. "Steals? Bit dramatic, don't you think?" Harry leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low but loaded. "If an algorithm trains on an artist's work without permission and then generates something that sounds like them, you're taking their identity and selling it." The audience murmured. A few clapped, a few shook their heads. Bill didn't like how many claps he was hearing. "So you want a ban, a full stop, just shut the door on innovation because it makes you uneasy?" Harry inhaled slowly. "Bill, you keep trying to frame this as fear. It's not fear, it's ethics, it's fairness. It's about valuing artists enough to protect them." Bill raised his hands mockingly. "Oh, I love fairness. I'm all for fairness. But do we really trust governments to regulate creativity? You want Congress deciding what's real art and what's not?" Harry didn't even flinch at the sarcasm. "No. I want transparency, clear labeling, systems that stop corporations from using dead actors' faces or musicians' voices without permission." That touched a nerve in the room. Lots of nodding now. Bill leaned in, smelling trouble and loving it. "Okay, but let's say AI gets banned or limited or whatever you want. Who decides what crosses the line? You? Your foundation? Your Hollywood friends?" A few quick, uncomfortable laughs rose from the audience. Harry's eyes narrowed. "My Hollywood friends? Bill, I haven't lived a day in Hollywood in my life, and this isn't about celebrities. It's about every young musician who wakes up to hear a fake version of themselves trending on an app." Bill blew out a breath through his nose, the way he does when he's about to provoke on purpose. "All right, but look, Harry, some people might say you're just protecting an industry you benefit from. You've got Netflix deals. You're telling AI not to compete with you." A long, quiet inhale from Harry. There it was, the poke that landed too deep. "Bill, you don't know what I benefit from. You have no idea what I've given up. And I'm here because the issue matters, not because I'm scared of competition." Bill smirked. "I don't know, man. You seem pretty worked up for someone who's not scared." A few audience members winced. Harry's jaw tightened. "I'm passionate. That's not the same as scared." Bill shrugged. "Okay, passion, fear, fragile ego, the line gets blurry." This time the audience reacted, a mix of gasps and awkward laughter. Harry's head turned sharply, eyes cold, surprised Bill would go that far on live television. "Fragile ego," Harry repeated, quieter than before, but sharper. "That's where you're going with this?" Bill leaned back like he'd done nothing at all. "I'm just asking questions." "No, you're baiting. You're trying to turn a real conversation into a joke." Bill held up a finger. "It's a comedy show, Harry. Relax." Harry didn't. Something in his expression shifted. He wasn't angry yet, but his patience was thinning fast. The audience felt it too. The air thickening, the space shrinking, the conversation slipping off its rails. Bill smiled like he'd planned it this way. "Well, if this is how heated you get about AI, I can't wait to see how you react when artists start getting replaced for real." Harry looked at him with a stare colder than studio lighting could ever be. "Bill, artists are already being replaced." And the room fell completely silent. The clash was no longer brewing, it was burning, and the next seconds would push it past anything the show was prepared for. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't empty. It felt like pressure building, the kind that makes even the camera operators shift behind their rigs. Bill Maher blinked once, slowly, as if deciding whether to lean into the moment or back away from it.
And then, with predictable confidence, he leaned in. "Okay," Bill said, "so show me the tragedy. Who exactly has been replaced in this grand artistic collapse you're describing?" Harry didn't answer right away. He sat there, hands clasped, staring at Bill like he was weighing something. Not the argument, the consequences. He exhaled softly and looked out toward the audience instead of back at Bill. "You want an example?" Harry said. "Fine, I'll give you one." The room quieted. Even Bill paused. Harry shifted forward, elbows on his knees, voice lower and heavier. "Last year, I met a young singer, early 20s, brilliant voice. She had a small following online, nothing massive, but real fans who loved her music." His jaw tightened. "And one morning, she woke up to see a new song going viral under her name. Only she hadn't written it, hadn't sung it, hadn't approved a thing." The audience frowned. A few gasped. Bill tapped his pen. "Okay, but that's the internet. Fake songs have happened forever." Harry shook his head. "No, this wasn't fake. It was perfect. The AI had replicated her tone, her runs, her breath patterns. People were praising her growth when she didn't even know the song existed." That landed hard. Harry swallowed. She spent 2 months trying to get the audio taken down, 2 months trying to convince people that it wasn't hers. She lost opportunities, she lost royalties, she lost fans who said she was lying for attention. His voice grew softer. "She told me she felt like someone had stolen her identity while the world applauded." The audience let out a long, sad breath. Bill looked uncomfortable, but not enough to back off. "That's awful, truly, but Harry, we can't ban an entire technology because bad actors misuse it." Harry turned sharply, eyes flashing. "Bill, she wasn't destroyed by bad actors. She was destroyed by the fact that the tech exists without rules, without responsibility." Bill opened his mouth, but Harry wasn't finished. "You know what she said to me?" Harry continued. "She said, 'I wish I'd never put my music online. I feel like I don't own my own voice anymore.'" The room froze. That line lingered in the air like smoke. Harry let out a shaky breath, the emotion clearer now. "And that hit me harder than anything, because that feeling, losing control of your own identity, I know what that feels like. I've lived it." That last sentence shifted the entire atmosphere. Several audience members leaned in. A woman in the front row whispered, "Oh my God." Harry wasn't looking at Bill anymore. He was staring down at the floor, one hand gripping the other so tightly his knuckles whitened. "When your image becomes something you can't stop, when people put words in your mouth, when stories get created about you that you never said, never lived, never chose," he raised his eyes slowly, "that is what AI is doing to artists, and it's happening right now." Bill blinked, caught off guard by how personal the moment had become. "Harry," Bill tried, "no one's saying losing control isn't traumatic, but lots of people lose control of their image. That doesn't mean we burn the tools." Harry's voice lowered into something rough. "This isn't losing control. This is erasure." The audience went still. "You think I'm worked up? Of course I'm worked up. Because once you've lived through having your narrative hijacked, even once, you recognize it instantly, and you never want anyone else to go through it." Bill's expression tightened. He hadn't expected this kind of vulnerability. Not from Harry, not on his show. Harry looked at him with eyes that weren't angry now. They were wounded, but steady. "This isn't a thought experiment. This is people's lives, their identity, their voice, their art. AI can imitate all of that, but it will never understand the cost." No one clapped. No one breathed. It was the kind of silence that comes when a studio hears something too raw to applaud. Bill cleared his throat, shifting back in his chair. "Well, that's a lot." Harry nodded once, jaw still tight. And that's when Bill made the mistake that pushed everything over the edge. He shrugged and said with a smirk he shouldn't have worn, "All right, but let's not get dramatic." The room snapped, and Harry's breaking point was seconds away.
The second Bill Maher said it, "Let's not get dramatic," the audience reacted before Harry did. A few gasped loud enough for the microphones to catch. Someone in the back muttered, "Oh, come on." A couple of people even groaned, knowing exactly what kind of match Bill had just struck. Harry didn't move at first. He sat there so still it almost looked like he was rebooting. His jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on Bill with a stare that wasn't fiery, it was cold. The kind of cold that meant patience had just snapped cleanly in half. Bill leaned back slightly, sensing the shift, but refusing to show it. "Hey," he added, hands open, "I'm just trying to keep perspective." Harry's breath came out slow and shaky. "Perspective," he repeated quietly. "That's what you think you're offering." Bill shrugged, still trying to play the role of the rational moderator. "Look, I'm not minimizing anyone's trauma. I'm just saying we shouldn't overreact." Harry cut him off. "Overreact?" His voice was calm, but there was tension beneath every syllable. "Bill, you just listened to a story about a young woman losing control of her own identity. You heard how it destroyed her career. And your takeaway is that I'm being dramatic?" Bill tried to laugh it off. "Well, you have to admit, you do have a flair for—" Harry didn't let him finish. Don't you dare try to turn this into some joke about me being emotional." The audience murmured again. The mood was shifting fast, and Bill wasn't reading it well. He pushed forward. All right, let's relax. No reason to get touchy." That did it. Harry leaned forward, eyes blazing now, voice low and unmistakably angry. "You don't get to tell me when to relax, not after dismissing something you don't understand." Bill blinked, taken aback by the sudden sharpness, but pride wouldn't let him step back. "Harry, it's a conversation. We're debating ideas. This is what the show is." Harry shook his head. "No, debating is one thing. Mocking people's real experiences is another." "I'm not mocking anyone. You're mocking me right now. You're mocking her. You're mocking every artist who's scared of being erased." The audience clapped, a sudden burst of support that surprised everyone, including Harry. Bill glanced their way, irritated that the room wasn't on his side. "So what?" Bill said with a thin smile. "You want to ban AI because it might hurt someone's feelings?" Harry stood up so fast his chair pushed back an inch. The audience gasped again, louder this time. Bill blinked. "Whoa, hey!" Harry towered over the desk now, voice firm but controlled. "This is not about feelings. It's about identity, but you clearly don't care about that." "Sit down, Harry," Bill said, trying to regain authority. "Come on, don't make this weird." Harry stared at him, eyes wide with disbelief. "Don't make this weird? Bill, you've mocked victims, dismissed real harm, and then tried to humiliate me when I push back." Bill rolled his eyes. "You're overthinking this." Harry actually laughed, a short, humorless sound. "No, Bill, I'm finally done thinking you're having this conversation in good faith." The studio had gone completely silent, except for a faint buzz from the lights overhead. Harry reached down, unclipped his microphone, and held it in his hand for a moment. He looked at Bill with genuine sadness now, not anger. "I came here thinking we were talking about protecting artists. I didn't realize I needed to protect myself." Bill opened his mouth to respond, but Harry didn't give him the chance. He set the mic on the desk, not thrown, not slammed, but placed with a finality that made the entire room tense, and stepped back. The audience rose in a wave of murmurs, whispers, and gasps as Harry turned toward the edge of the stage. "Harry, come on," Bill called after him, voice cracking just slightly. "Don't walk off, we're just talking." Harry didn't even look back. He walked past the cameras, past the stunned audience, past the producers who scrambled toward him but didn't dare grab his arm. He moved with a calm fury, every step deliberate, every breath clipped. The moment he disappeared behind the stage curtains, the room erupted, not in cheers or boos, but in pure shock. Bill sat there alone at his desk, staring at the empty chair across from him, realizing that he had just become the villain of his own episode. And the fallout was only beginning. The studio stayed quiet long after Harry walked off.
Bill sat back in his chair, tapping his pan against the desk, while the audience looked around, as if waiting for someone to tell them what they had just witnessed. A moment earlier, they had been laughing at a light joke about movie soundtracks. Now the stage felt tight, heavy, and strangely personal. Bill finally spoke, voice lower than usual. He didn't try to make a punchline out of it. "Look," he said, "I poke people for a living. Sometimes they poke back. Sometimes they leave. That's the job." He raised his hands, admitting his part without sugarcoating it. "But I do get why he's fired up. Art isn't just business to him. It's his family legacy, and he thinks it's slipping." Anna, the guest panelist who had barely gotten a word in during the chaos, stepped in gently. "People are scared," she said. "Writers, musicians, actors, everyone feels like the ground is shifting under them. Some are excited, some are terrified, and most of us are somewhere in the middle." She looked toward the now empty chair where Harry had been sitting. "His reaction comes from fear, even when he wasn't saying it directly." A few audience members nodded. The tension eased a little. Bill leaned forward again, a rare seriousness settling over his expression. "Here's the truth. AI isn't going anywhere, but neither is human creativity. The question isn't whether we can stop it. The question is how we make sure the people who actually pour their lives into art don't get steamrollered by it." He pointed toward the camera, speaking now to people at home. "If you're a musician or filmmaker grinding every day, you deserve a world where your work can still matter. If you're experimenting with AI because it opens new doors, you deserve a world where you're not shamed for being curious. The answer isn't banning everything or pretending nothing is changing. It's finding a way where tech doesn't erase the heart of the people behind the art." Lorraine, the stage manager, signaled that they were coming up on time. Bill let out a long breath and nodded. "Prince Harry and I clearly don't agree. Maybe we won't anytime soon. But he cares, I care, and if you care about movies and music, this conversation is only starting. It shouldn't end because someone got mad and walked out." The audience applauded, softer than usual, but more thoughtful. The empty chair stayed in frame for another beat, a quiet reminder of the moment that cracked open a much bigger debate. They all wrapped the show in a steady voice. "Tell us what you think. Should AI-generated art be banned to protect real artists, or is there room for both?" Then the lights dimmed, and the stage finally exhaled.